doubt, fear, resistance, questioning the path, questioning why you're doing it, questioning whether it's worth it, is all natural. It's all part of the game. The question becomes, when these situations arise, how do you respond? Do you double down? Do you reconnect with the why, the reason, why you started this journey? Or do you let that voice in your head, that chatter, get to you, cause you to derail, to start questioning it? And inch by inch, it eats away at your resolve until you're back where you started. Because I was talking to a friend about it the other day, and it was a fascinating one for me, because she said to me, she was like, I feel that if your life is a certain way on the outside, people don't take your struggles seriously. When you say that you're struggling, or you're having difficulty, or you're doubting yourself, they'll be like, oh yeah, okay, you're fine though. Because, well, they're like, look at your life. Why would you doubt it? Why would you question it? Because your life's good. And she's like, I feel like they don't take me seriously because life is good. And it's this, and I was like, this is part of it. This is the truth of it all. That people who appear to have it all together, people don't take those things seriously. It's like when your life is great, why would anything be awful from the outside? If everything's great, how can you have anything to complain about? And I come back to that, the concept of the worst thing to ever happen to you is still the worst thing to ever happen to you. Maybe compared to others, it's a blip on the radar. It's a nothing thing. But in your life, it's still the worst thing that has ever happened to you. Therefore, it is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Your perception of reality is based on your own reality. It doesn't matter what other people go through. It doesn't matter what the rest of the world is perceiving. Your perception is where it's at. And she's like, I'm doubting myself. I'm really starting to question this path, whether I can do it. And I was like, well, that's normal. When we level up, when we take on something bigger than we've ever channeled before, when we're pushing into a whole new aspect of our life, or removing or ending a chapter of our lives, yeah, there's going to be immense doubt. There is going to be resistance, and usually it's not at the point that most people expect. I find that there are phases in this progression. So obviously there is that initial doubt, questioning, all that kind of stuff before you start undertaking the actions, whether it's health and fitness, whether it's business, whether it's relationships, whether it's just, personal development and growth, whatever that aspect may be. When you first start, there is doubt on, should I be doing it? Am I right for this? Am I able to do this? Am I good enough to undertake this? All that kind of stuff. But once you've made the decision, usually, and I will emphasize usually, not always, but usually there is enough motivation and momentum because you've made the decision. You're like, okay, I'm gonna fucking do this. I'm gonna make a change in my life. So there is usually enough motivation and momentum from said decision for the first 21 to 28 days, roughly. And then it starts to kick in. And then those questions start to kick in as the motivation wears off. When the excitement of the new and exciting thing wears off. Sometimes it's sooner, sometimes it's 14 days. We're at roughly that point now where I think it's something like 80% of New Year's resolutions get thrown in because all the excitement and the joy of it has worn the fuck off. And it's like, oh, this shit's hard. Oh, we still have to do this. Oh, this is difficult. If it's health and fitness, oh, it hurts. Oh, it's the same thing again and again and again. And most people quit. And most people give up. And you have to find a different reason for it. That's when the doubts and the resistance kicks in. As I said, that's perfectly normal. The differentiator is the decision you then make at that point. So what are you going to do at that point? What decision are you going to make about that? Are you going to give in to that voice? That voice that's trying to hold you back, that's trying to hold you as the person that you used to be? Are you going to continue giving in to that? Or are you going to find a new way? Or are you going to step up and make a decision on it? That, yeah, it is really difficult. Yeah, that voice in my head is screaming across the megaphone that I should give up, that I should quit. But I'm not going to listen. And this is your first test of resilience. This is your first test of, am I truly committed to becoming this new version of myself? And these things will forever come up, because as you progress into new levels. You know, I find, as I said, the first one's about 21 to 28 days. The next one's about 90 days. And after that, it's about 6 months, and it's about 2 years, and about 5 years, I think, from experience, that those things tend to kick in. And especially if it is that you are on the same path of the same relative goal, but constantly leveling yourself up. So doubt and fear and resistance isn't anything to be ashamed of. It isn't anything unusual. In fact, it's downright expected. It's part of the journey to then overcome it. It's part of why we respect people who do make these definitive changes. It's why it's so imperative and also so rare for people to truly change their lives. Like, if we look back, and yeah, we're in January right now, if we look back at all those people, myself, yourself included, on those who make New Year's resolutions, who make these promises that it's a new year, yay me, new year, new me. How many people actually make those changes? How many people actually follow through and reach a new version of themselves? Now, I have zero idea how they get these statistics, but the one I read the other day was that 1%, 1% of people who make New Year's resolutions actually follow through enough, and that come the next year, they've still done it. Come the next year, they have followed through and completed their New Year's resolutions, or stuck to it, or whatever you want to phrase it as. 1%. Like, we keep having discussions about how rare it is to be a man of discipline, a man of your word, to follow through on those kinds of things. It's so incredibly fucking rare. Like, it's beyond measure how rare it is. Because of this, like, so few people actually follow through. So few people have the fortitude and the discipline to change their life. We discuss it all the time. The majority of people die at 25, but don't actually get buried till 75. They die because they're just reliving the same year over and over and over and over again. They never actually make any changes. They aren't, to be honest, the majority of people aren't even cognizant of the life choices that they're making, of the decisions that they're making in terms of what they're doing. It is so incredibly rare to do that. And a lot of people find that daunting. I find that encouraging, to be honest, because it gives you that moment of, when those doubts and those fears and all those kinds of things arise, go, that's perfectly normal. Like, that's what everybody experiences. I'm now definitively going to make a decision to separate myself from them. That I'm going to separate myself from average. I'm going to make a decision here and now to be the best version of myself by not giving in to those voices, by not listening to the resistance, by not accepting that as an acceptable life choice. I'm going to make a better choice. I'm going to make a definitive choice to be the greatest version of myself. And that's what's going to separate you. That you get to make that decision of where you're going to end up. And so as I was coaching this friend, talking through, I'm so used to the coaching terminology, that I was like, yeah, it's fine, but you need to step back and look at A, how far you've come, B, the effort you've already invested, and C, why did you start? What was the reason behind starting this journey? How much does it mean to you? And when they stepped back and they looked at that, they were like, oh, shit, yeah, okay. I can't give up. It means more to me than the ease of this, that the doubt and the fear is going to stay there, but I just have to keep moving forward. That's the one I quote all the time. Just win the day. Win the motherfucking day. Take it one step at a time. And just repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. And the other one you can use, there's lots of tricks when it comes to this kind of stuff in terms of like psychologically preparing yourself for all this kind of stuff. But one of the tricks you can use is we place higher value on money we've already spent, things that we already own, time invested, all that kind of stuff. So the two simplest explanations of that is, if you join a queue and you're waiting and you've waited for 5 minutes, you're more inclined to wait another 5 minutes because you've already invested 5 minutes. But if you go, oh, well, it's going to take 25 minutes, you then start weighing up how much the time you invested is already worth versus how much longer it's going to take. But because you've already invested time, you go, well, I've already invested it and that would be wasteful, so I better keep going. That's where the majority of people get to. Or if they've spent money and they own something, they will value that thing higher because they've already spent money on it versus spending new money to acquire exactly the same thing. So if you go, I don't know, this cup, it's a black cup, and you already own it, so it's yours, and you're like, oh, well, it's my favorite cup. It's worth $5. But the exact same cup that you've never used and you've never done it, it's worth $5. Do I really want to spend that $5? Identical things, but because you've already spent the money, you've already invested, it's of greater value. So when you feel like quitting, think about that. Think about how much time you've already invested into this, how much effort, how much commitment, how you've given your word, those kinds of things. You're already invested into this. You're already invested into your own personal development. Is it truly worth quitting and having to start again and wasting that time, or is it worth riding out this difficult patch to continue forward to get to where you want to get to? And these are the questions you need to ask yourself. Like, there is greater value placed on things that you've already done, you've already invested time into. And I always come back to the concept of, well, time's going to pass anyway. That time is going to go past anyway, regardless of the choices you make. So you might as well invest it into getting to where you want to get to. I have people that say these things to me, and they're like, oh, it's going to take so long to reach my goals. Correct. It is going to be a massive investment of time and effort and money and commitment and all that kind of stuff. But that time is going to go past anyway. You're going to invest that effort into something else, or that attention into something else. Money is going to come and go in that area anyway. So you might as well invest those things, your time, your money, and your effort into something that you truly want, into becoming the best version of yourself. I cannot emphasize that enough. There is no greater investment in your life than investing into you, to being the best version of you. It always baffles my mind when we come to these things and we talk about fitness and health and exercise and all this kind of stuff. And people are like, that's a lot of effort, that's a lot of money, that's a lot of time. And I'm like, if you were sick, if you had, a chronic disease or a immune disease or autoimmune disease or something like this, which meant that you couldn't live your life the way you wanted to, I can guarantee you that you would trade absolutely anything for that. Anything to be the best version of yourself. You'd trade anything to get back to just not even being the best, just being able to live on average. I've got clients who have autoimmune diseases and they just wish to be able to function without being in pain, without suffering. That's all they want. Like, not huge, aspects of like they want to be shredded and they want to be able to do all this kind of stuff. They just want to live an average life without suffering. Now, obviously, you can't directly control whether you end up with an autoimmune disease. But you can sure as shit look after as much as possible. You can control the things that you can control, like exercise, like food, like how you channel your time, all this kind of stuff. So that time is going to pass regardless. And you're going to end up in a place where you resent that you didn't utilize it better, that you didn't channel the time, the money, the effort into the thing that matters most of all, you. Like, even if you just want to make it the most fucking selfish thing under the sun, investing into you and your life and your happiness and your ability to function is never going to be a wasted investment. Never. Because your health and your happiness and your life will be better for it. And the biggest gap I find for a lot of people on this is that they don't even realize how far off they are from feeling good. This one I picked up from a chiropractic friend of mine. And he was talking about it, and he's like, the biggest problem I face, and I face it in my job as well, is that if you ask most people where they are and how they're feeling and all that kind of stuff, the majority of people will say somewhere between a 6 and a 7 out of 10. And the reality is that they're probably between a 1 and a 3. But, as we said at the beginning, perception is reality. That's because they have no fucking clue what a 10 is. They're basing it on their highest level of how they feel. They have nothing to base it on. So, their best days they might reach a 4, not realizing that they're so far off a 10 that it's astronomical. So you need to overcome that, and you need to keep pushing forward. Yeah, there is discomfort. Yeah, there is resistance. Yeah, there is fear and doubt on whether this will work. But the majority of the time, and I do mean the majority of the time, to get probably 80 to 90% of the results is just straight up hands in daylight, effort and consistency. Doesn't matter if it is the worst program under the sun. If you give it effort and consistency, you'll end up in a better place. You will absolutely end up in a much, much better place than where you currently are. So keep moving forward. Don't let the doubt and the fear and the resistance get to you. Don't let it eat away at you. And in those moments where it is really easy to let it seep in, I'll throw you back to the one I had the other day of the tree falls the way it leans. So don't let those first little inches get away, because ending up in a place you don't want to be doesn't happen with the major decisions. It happens with the tiny little decisions. It happens in the micro decisions that are stacked on top of each other. They're stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked. You don't want to be there. Those are the decisions that actually matter a hell of a lot more than the massive decisions that you're making. It's the ones that you think are insignificant. It's the ones that don't seem like a huge deal, but they are. And it's always the ones that, the simplest answers are on nutrition and exercise. It's skipping that one workout, or not giving it as much effort as you know you could, or, having that one glass of wine, or having that one cookie, or having that, one whatever the fuck it is, and then becomes one a week, and then it's two a week, and then it's every night, and then it's, the tree falls the way it leans, and then shit hits the fan and life gets really fucking hard, and you've already been slipping off when things were easy. Well, shit, now it's about to get real fucking complex. Now it's about to get really hard because your willpower is already overwhelmed by the stress of life. If you couldn't do it when life was cruisy, fuck, the chances of you following through when life is hard is nearly non-existent. That's why most people binge eat at night, because they spent all day utilizing their willpower and they run out of willpower at the end of the day. And it's why I think, and people disagree with me, and that's fine, but this is how I see it, that you are so much better off making it an all or nothing, that there is no gray zone. There is only this. End of story. This is what I'm doing. I'm eating an animal-based diet. Here are the foods that I can eat. Meat, eggs, fruit, and sweet potato. There is no gray zone. There is no exception to the rule. There is nothing but fucking that. So you don't have to instill willpower, it just is. You don't have to question and make decisions about it. You don't get decision fatigue about what's going on. This is just what's happening. End of story. And then you do that every single day. And there are no days off. So there is no reset. So you don't lose the momentum. You don't lose the power of continuing forward every single day. You are just doing it without question, no matter what. And I think it makes it a really simple yes, no, black and white decision. So you are more likely to follow through. You are more likely to stick to that because of that decision. And I think that's powerful. And I think that's a really, really important aspect of it. That you want to remove as many barriers as possible to just following through. It's the same as removing all the junk food out of your house. If it's not there in your house, it becomes a much bigger decision to be like, well, I'm going to go drive to the shops to buy, the wine, the ice cream, the whiskey, whatever the fuck it is. That's a much greater decision than being like, I could just, snack on a few chips while I'm standing in the pantry deciding what I'm going to eat. Or I'm going to open the fridge and just pull it out of it. You have to make those harder decisions. So make it as hard as possible to give in. Make it as hard as possible to quit on that. And you'll end up in a much, much better place. So that's all I have for you. And as I said, if you're struggling with the doubt, if you're struggling with the resistance, you're struggling with the fear, just keep going. Keep delaying it. If you're going to quit, just delay that moment. If you're going to give in, just delay that moment as long as possible. You go, okay, well, let's see if I can finish today. All right, and I'll do it tomorrow. And then I'll do it tomorrow. See how long you can push it down the line to really keep going and keep testing yourself on that fact. Now, if you need support and guidance on that, shoot me a message. Let's get you into chasing greatness. Let's start it. At the moment, I'm looking for 5 guys where I'm willing to give it to you for free. The first 30 days, a 30-day challenge to just get you started. I'm beta testing a new program that I'm testing out, and I want to blow you away with the results that I'm going to deliver. The only condition is that you're all fucking in. I'm going to give you everything you need to transform your life in the next 30 days. All you got to do is just fucking commit. So if you want that, shoot me a message and let's see if you're ready for that. If you're not quite there yet, click the link in my bio. Grab my top 10 tools to transform your mental toughness. And lastly, if you enjoyed this, if you took value from this, if it spoke to you, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. But most of all, subscribe. The majority of people who are watching this are not subscribed, and it helps me, it helps you, it helps the algorithm, it helps everybody let you know that this is of value and it's speaking to you. So please hit that subscribe button because I'll be back again tomorrow. Until then.